people come into a relationship with certain expectations about how it's going to go. And when it gets so bad or so off track, we see a lot of anger and resentment. And we were on a path, this is why we set our vows. This is why I married you, is like we were supposed to be going down this road together, and it was going to look this way. Did you, though? Did you make agreements about what marriage meant to you? Maybe the other person entered into this marriage with a totally different set of expectations. Maybe they were never interested in this kind of marriage that I'm interested in. Hey everyone, we are back. Welcome to True Northing. Something we talked about, I think it was in the last episode, was as we were going through a lot of the reasons why it's hard to leave a relationship when you know it's time. Something we discussed was the cultural or the community judgment that the person can receive for deciding to walk out on a relationship, deciding to end a relationship, and particularly when you're married, and even more so when you have children. That the community and as a society, we like to judge people who are in that situation or who make that decision if it doesn't align with our values. And something I wanted to bring in today that I was thinking about is not only the outside world casting judgment on the decision to end a relationship, but even the partner of the person who says, I've had enough. We've tried. I've worked really hard. I've come to the realization and I've decided to accept that it is time for this relationship to end. I am ready to leave this relationship for all of the reasons that one does. And how in that decision, oftentimes the partner who is quote unquote being left gets to twist the narrative and frame the person leaving as the guilty party. Like you are the one who's giving up on the relationship. You're the one actually leaving, making that decision. And so there can be this feeling, and it can also be totally clear and spoken of, right? You're giving up. You are walking out on our relationship. You are to blame. And that piece right there can weigh really heavily on somebody.
I see this a lot in relationships with addiction, where the person who finally realizes how unreciprocated the relationship is, maybe the person who's struggling with addiction and is unwilling to confront that and or maybe they're in denial about it. There's this kind of idea that the person who's in the relationship with the addict should keep persevering, should see them through, should keep trying and being with that person no matter what, no matter how neglected their needs are. And there can be this cultural idea that the person who is deciding to end the relationship because it's not healthy and working towards health is the one abandoning, versus the one who took to substances or drugs. They left the relationship possibly a long time ago. I mean, there's so many nuances here of like the addiction, when it came from, all these different kinds of things. But I think the key thing that I spoke in there is denial around the addiction and an unwillingness to confront this other in the relationship, in this other being the substance, and how that person left and is leaving and choosing to leave through the addiction.
And even when there isn't clear addiction, but just somebody who has abandoned their partner emotionally in the relationship, has neglected the needs of the partner, has chosen to not participate and do the work to improve things, that person has really abandoned the relationship energetically and neglected the needs of the relationship for so long. And then when the other person gets to the point of making that tough decision to leave, they get blamed for it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's really easy to blame the person for not trying harder or giving more grace or um, sticking through it no matter what. And it's fascinating how the burden is placed on the person who's already been participating, advocating, making bids for connection, scheduling therapy, whatever it is, the big to the little things that it's like, well, you should actually carry the whole thing. And like, how are you leaving? And it is quite a fascinating cultural phenomenon to unpack a bit. Why do you think this happens?
Right. It's like I can't win either way. I either stay
Yeah.
and continue to do all the work for both people and never get my needs met, or I make the decision to leave and then it's all my fault. And people judge me, and my partner gets to spin this narrative like I'm the one who gave up on the relationship. I get to be the bad guy.
Mm. It's interesting because as we're talking about this, yes, I see it in marriages, in relationships, but I see it in a lot of different kinds of relationships, family relationships. Like the person who's used to carrying the awareness or the healing is the one who often carries the blame if the relationship is not viable anymore. Or that person chooses to take care of themselves and not be injured or neglected or sacrificed.
Like, who are you to have needs?
Who are you to have needs? Yeah.
Who are you to be so demanding, to demand these things of your partner, to not just sacrifice, to not just be understanding?
Right. Right. Like, go without, like and I think this especially goes for women, I'm going to say.
I was
I don't
just
think
thinking
the
that.
same standard is held for men, I think. And what's fascinating is women, end 70% of marriages?
Is that right? Wow.
Women end the majority of marriages and relationships.
I was just thinking that because I when y and, I work with a lot of couples, so I hear this a lot, but when we think about a man going without his physical needs being met, say it's a sexless marriage, and, to think of a man going a year with no sex, I think a lot of people would say, "I get why he had an affair. I get why he left the marriage. What did she expect?" But then when you reverse it and you think about a woman, which not to stereotype, I mean, women, it could be the same thing. Maybe it's a sexless marriage and she has sexual needs, or it could be an emotional need, right? Like she is emotionally neglected and abandoned and in this chronic situation of not having her needs met, and she is expected to just endure and be understanding and stay at any cost. It's like it doesn't matter how bad it gets. When she makes the decision to leave, she is shamed.
Wow. In that exact example of sex, how we would think differently of it of a man who didn't have sex for a year or a woman who didn't receive the sex and sexual connection for a year. It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, the woman's fine. The
Yeah.
man is not fine."
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like, oh, yeah, it would be valid then for him to seek that, and I think I could even see that emotionally for men as well, if there was this idea of, oh, the woman was withholding love, not even sex, but like withholding love for a year, or like not turning towards her husband or giving him affection or praise or whatever, that he would be so much more validated in his needs.
Oh,
Than
absolutely.
oh,
Yeah. Women are trained to endure and
right.
sacrifice, right?
Women are trained to endure and sacrifice, yes, and be compassionate and understanding
Mm.
and caring and not angry. I mean, I think one of the biggest supposed insults a woman could receive is like, "Oh, you're so angry. You're so selfish. You're angry, you're selfish." What would you say a third one would be? I feel like there's a third one in there.
Well, I just think of the word nasty. Like a
Mm,
woman who's angry is so off-putting
mm,
to us as a society.
mm,
I I see a lot of couples in therapy, and often couples come to therapy once they are like past, they've been enduring for so long or disconnected for so long. And the woman I I often will see comes in with a lot of anger, and it comes out. And I have also, I consult with other therapists, and have connected with other therapists who've worked with the people that I work with as well. And it's so easy for even a trained therapist to look at a couple and see and feel the anger from the woman, and to pathologize it and see her as the problem. Like,
mm,
wow, why is this woman so angry? Gosh, she's so nasty. How could he stand? Of course, he can't stand to be around her. Like, she really needs help, this angry woman. And I have even noticed myself reflexively kind of um, experience that at first. Like, well, he's so calm, right? And she's so angry. What
He
is like,
is so
yeah,
calm.
yeah,
Yeah.
look, he's so likable and pleasant. And
Mm,
here she is so angry, and it's uncomfortable. And I have learned, over the years to really lean towards the anger and ask myself, well, hold on a minute. Why is this woman so angry?
mm. Yes, absolutely.
She's angry for a very good reason. And probably she's gotten to this level of anger because it's probably a signal that she has been enduring for way too long,
Mhm,
and overcompensating and excusing and going without for so long
mm,
without her needs being met, that it manifests in this anger response.
mm. Yeah, it's the symptom, not the cause. And just want to put a little note in here saying, like, it's not that the man is responsible for her anger. Like, she oftentimes, what can happen is that she's made a request, she's set a limit, she's um, communicated and tried and reached out and made bids, and they have not been met. And so the frustration builds over time and over time, and the anger gets more. But there can be, I'm trying to think here of like her anger is a message for her.
Yes.
What has been missing for her?
Yes.
Like, oh my God, I have continued to stay with somebody who's totally dismissed anything that I've ever brought, or, my needs. Or, oh my gosh, I've crossed my own limits. I've crossed my own boundaries. And so that can get bigger and bigger. The more time, the more limits that have been crossed, the less bids for connection that have gone missed, or the more bids for connection that have gone missed. Yeah. So it's not about like, you have done this to me. It's, wow, I got to get real honest with why I am so angry, because this anger is really speaking out for something
Yes.
important to me.
Absolutely, right. It's a symptom, not the cause. It's showing us if there's this level of anger, there it's showing us that there's something much deeper here that's been enduring for way too long. And I love that framing of the anger is is in response to a lot of things, and it's not his responsibility or the other person's responsibility. It is a communication for her to look at that she has missed her own needs. He has missed her needs for sure, but she has allowed it,
Mm,
perhaps. She has, yeah, she has allowed her own boundaries to be crossed. She has not held her own limits and taken care of her own needs.
mm. I noticed myself actually, I said that, but then when you said it back, I didn't like it
Mm.
because I think that in relationship, we do have a responsibility to care for one another. I don't think it's all one person's. Like, you give your trust, especially in marriage, you give your word, you give your heart, you receive word, you receive the heart. You are in a contract to care for and love one another and support the fruition and well-being of each other. It's a commitment. And
Yeah.
so I do think there is responsibility for both parties to care for one another and care for the needs in the way the other person needs. Otherwise, like, what is marriage
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
can't rely on the person you've committed with?
And so she's angry that he's not holding up his end of the bargain, right? He's not caring for her and her needs
Mhm.
in the way that maybe she thought they agreed to or was the expectation or the hope for a relationship.
Both things can be true. She can be angry that he's not, holding his responsibility. She could also be angry that meanwhile she hasn't done what she's needed to do or that she's let it get so far or,
And
these
and
different.
she's being put in this position of having to manage that and face that and figure out what to do with that, kind of like all on her own.
Mhm.
Like, you're not showing up for this relationship.
Mm,
I'm the one who has to tolerate that, figure out how to make things change, go without, or eventually make the decision to end the relation like, the burden falls on her.
right. Wow. What a sickness this, um, pattern is, or this default, this, I don't know, this thought in our culture.
I like that we're touching on too, we talked about the overcompensating that a woman can often find herself in when she's in relationship with a lower capacity man or person, and kind of this internal dialogue of I need to work harder. What am I missing? What is my part to work on? I need to be more understanding,
Mhm.
yada yada. But we're also touching on the fact that that is an external narrative as well, or expectation from others. Her partner is also saying, probably, you need to be more understanding. You have too many needs. You need to chill. And then also society to the woman, like you should be sacrificing and selfless
Mm,
and just keep the peace and right, just
mhm,
stay, figure it
mhm,
out.
mhm. Do you think that there is validity in this idea of self-sacrifice or you need to tolerate more?
Hmm. Meaning, is there good reason for that? Is there a benefit to that?
Yeah, I know that in certain cases there is. I mean, maybe back to this addiction example, maybe there's the partner that gives a lot of grace for years or something and then is stands by their partner and they eventually see it through and then is able to have that reciprocal relationship. Um, Maybe we're going down another rabbit hole here, but ultimately, we've talked about this in relationship. It is a balancing of needs for both people in the relationship and all people in the relationship, children involved. Um, but yeah, do you want to respond to that?
Well, I think we've touched on that just briefly before, that it does serve a function,
Yeah.
right? That putting this um, expectation or pressure on women or both married people to endure and sacrifice and stay at any cost.
I think that's the key phrase, at any cost. I don't believe at any cost.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we want, but the purpose of that, it's like this idea that there are certain types of shame that are good in a
Mm,
society. Like I
right.
forget if there's a phrase for it, but like, there's social shame, but like part of it is essential for social learning. Like if there was
Mm,
no shame, then, people wouldn't follow the cultural rules or whatever.
yeah.
We wouldn't know how to be considerate of others or be more aware of ourselves or something. There's a threshold there. But so kind of the same thing I think applies here is we as a society want people to take partnership and marriage incredibly seriously, and we don't want people to think there's an out, right? We do want families to stay together.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, but then of course, again, there's a threshold, right? It's like there's so many nuances and individual situations. And yeah, should a person stay at any cost? No, right? I
No.
mean, yeah,
Yeah. Not the cost to their health, their mental health, their relationships with other people in their life, their family, like there's limits. And so that, yeah, that idea is a slippery slope for sure. And this blame placing on the person that leaves is as we've talked about, really unfair and imbalanced. And while, of course, there are times that we have to give a lot of grace and times we sacrifice, it should not come at the cost of your dignity, your health, and yeah, your
well,
dignity, your health. Yeah.
absolutely. And what I have seen is that there usually is a very long runway that leads to ending a
Mm,
marriage or relationship. And so typically there are years of
for
self-sacrifice
sure.
and putting your needs last and enduring and all of these things we're talking about, right?
They've already happened
They've already
before
happened.
we got to
That's kind of
the,
like
to that
that's
point.
that's the first response is
Mm,
like figure it out. Like the first reaction is not to leave, typically.
totally. I think they
Typically.
said for women, I don't know what this number would be for men, but it was like 5.6 years it takes a woman from the point that she realizes that the relationship is not healthy till
Wow.
she actually leaves. And in those 5.6 years is everything that you described.
Right. So
Yeah.
one other piece I wanted to bring in is part of part of the problem that I see is that people come into a relationship, a marriage, a life partnership with this, well, with certain expectations about how it's going to go.
Mhm.
And when it gets so bad or so off track, there's we see a lot of anger and resentment, and how could, how dare you put me in this situation where I have to decide to end our marriage. And there's a feeling like we were supposed to be working towards this vision, this marriage. Like we were on a path, this is why we said our vows. This is why I married you, is like we were supposed to be going down this road together. And was going to look this way. But one thing I wonder is like, did you though? Did you make agreements
Mm.
about what marriage meant to you? Did you say our marriage is going to really prioritize growth and spirituality, and we're going to challenge each other, and we're going to own our shit, and we're going to take accountability, and right? And so it's such a good question to think about. Like, we get to this point of leaving, and we're so disappointed,
Mm.
understandably, of course. But what were those agreements? And I guess it's just so good to, I mean, for me, it kind of helps with the anger of like, well, hey, maybe I entered into this marriage thinking this is what it would be like. This is the kind of marriage I want.
Mhm.
But maybe the other person, entered into this marriage with a totally different set of expectations. Maybe they were never interested in this kind of marriage that I'm interested in. And I just, was going along my journey being like, "Hey, get on board with me." And
Mm.
they're like, I was never on board."
Like, "No, get on board with me."
Right. "Get on my train and let's go. This is how it was supposed to go." Right?
Mhm. You are so right, and that is brings up such an important topic of that everybody has their own idea of what marriage is, and unless you discuss that, there's so much room for people to be having their own assumptions, expectations, even in a very healthy, loving relationship. There will be kinks to work out of like, oh, I thought marriage went like this based on the example that I saw, what I read in books, or, whatever it is, or what I want. Um,
And then it could also change based on your life
can
stage.
also
In your
change.
20s, maybe all you wanted was a baby daddy and a house and, you know, that's it, like a family.
Mhm.
And then you come into your 30s and you're like, "Oh, wait, no, I actually want like deep intimacy. I
Mm.
actually want like to embrace spirituality in our connection. I actually want like healing and growth," right? The needs can
Freedom.
change.
Yeah. Or like, oh, I need more independence.
Mm.
While staying connected. I mean, it can mean each something different to each person. And I think what you're speaking to is, yes, the good communication at the beginning. What is marriage? And maybe arcing all of those things is this idea that we will continue to discuss and be committed to what's healthy for each one of us. Because ultimately, I think that relationships are meant to bring more health into your life and bring more sense of you and sense of aliveness and through the connection.
And grow with you
Mm.
as you grow and change and age and get more experience and all of those things, more wisdom.
Mm. Yeah. Such an important thing to consider is that both people will change, the needs of the marriage will change, and are both people on board to be curious about themselves, have self awareness, have other awareness, receive, share. And what a beautiful value to communicate and be on the same page on from the very beginning. Can we grow? Can we be committed to each other's and our own well being? Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We love you so much and would be so grateful if you are not already following the show. You took 1 second to hit that plus sign to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps us reach more people, and then you get notified every time a new episode drops so you don't miss a thing. We will see you next week.